You think attraction is chemistry. The truth is it's control of how someone sees you. That one sentence is enough to split men into two groups. Those who still believe love is luck. And those who understand that desire follows rules. You've been told attraction is something that just happens. Two people clicking, a spark, a feeling, something you can't control. But here's the hard truth. The spark isn't random. It started on purpose. It's programmed. And someone in the relationship is always the programmer. The reason you've been ignored, replaced, or left behind isn't because you didn't have love. It's because she never felt mental pull toward you. You gave her comfort when her body wanted excitement. You gave her answers when her mind wanted mystery. You thought giving everything would earn love. But the female mind doesn't work on what's fair. It works on what's interesting. So ask yourself, why do some men make women chase them, think about them constantly, dream about them, while others more loyal, more kind, more available, get overlooked, used or left behind? The answer isn't in charm, it's in control. Control not of her actions, but of how she sees you. Because how she sees you is where attraction is born. Every look, every pause, every moment of quiet sends information to her subconscious. Her nervous system doesn't react to words. It reacts to importance, to emotional power, to how your energy makes her body feel when you say nothing. Women don't fall for logic. They fall for impact. And that impact can be planned. You're about to learn a mental structure that controls female desire. A structure hidden beneath smiles, kindness and conversation. It's the map of how a woman's brain connects to a man's presence. Desire, you see, isn't a flame. It's a loop, a system between tension and release, between mystery and meaning. And most men destroy that loop the moment they start chasing. They show too much of themselves, explain too much, give too much until there's no mystery left to feed her interest. That's why she loses interest. Not because she's mean, but because her mind has nothing left to figure out. What she fully understands, she stops feeling for. But some men, those few, create something else. They don't try to impress. They shake things up. They create tension, uncertainty, curiosity. They become an emotional puzzle her mind keeps coming back to. These men understand that what she feels unsure about, she can't stop thinking about. And that's the first rule of dark psychology. Attraction is kept alive by mental tension. She's not addicted to you. She's addicted to what she can't predict about you. Your silence becomes a message. Your holding back becomes strength. The more she tries to read you, the more invested she becomes in figuring you out. Understand this. Every man gives emotions. Few give experience. And experience, especially mental experience, is what the female mind worships. When she senses that your emotional rhythm is slower than hers, that you don't react to her mood changes, that you move from calmness, she begins to adjust her nervous system to yours. That's the first spark of obsession. Not born from pleasure, but from imbalance. You become the still point around which her chaos spins. So no, attraction isn't chemistry. Chemistry is what she feels. But how she sees you is what you control. And if you can control how she sees you, you can rewrite desire. This isn't manipulation. It's awareness. The awareness of patterns older than language. You're not learning how to trick women. You're learning how to stop being tricked by your own training. You were raised to be nice, to comfort, to give answers. But nice men are see-through, and being see-through kills mystery. You were taught that sharing feelings earns closeness, but unfiltered sharing of feelings without importance only creates sympathy, not desire. You were told to communicate, but in attraction, talking too much is self-sabotage. Because the female mind bonds not through explanation, but through emotional contrast. So, here's the journey you're about to take. You'll learn to build tension instead of comfort. To create meaning instead of noise, to show strength through rhythm, not volume, to become gravity instead of a satellite. And finally, to use absence as a weapon until your silence speaks louder than her words. Because when you understand the rules that control attraction, everything changes. You stop chasing approval and approval starts chasing you. You stop reacting to her emotions and she starts circling yours. Stay until the end because in part 5, you'll discover the binding law, the principle that flips her instinct from testing you to wanting you. It's not magic, it's mechanics. And once you see it, you'll never see women or yourself the same way again. Part 1, the tension loop. What she feels uncertain about, she can't stop thinking about. This is the puzzle of attraction. A woman's desire is not born in comfort. It's born in uncertainty. Men are taught to make women feel safe, to comfort, to be available, to communicate clearly. But emotional safety doesn't create desire. It kills it because desire requires distance. It needs space for imagination to run wild, for curiosity to start, for tension to stretch the mind between what she knows and what she feels she doesn't. When she doesn't know where she stands with you, she keeps thinking about you. Her brain begins to loop, questioning, analyzing, wondering. That loop is not pain. It's dopamine. In psychology, this is called the seeking loop. It's the mechanism that drives all pursuit. It's the same system that keeps gamblers stuck to slot machines, chasing the next uncertain reward. When she doesn't know if she has you, her nervous system releases dopamine. Not when she gets you, but when she's almost about to. That's why she checks your messages and replays your silence. That's why she stares at your last text, breaking down its tone. It's not the message that matters. It's the gap, the delay, the confusion, the emotional space that lets her nervous system search for closure it can't reach. The average man kills attraction because he can't handle that gap. He rushes to fill silence, to explain, to comfort. He thinks being clear will make her feel safe, and it does. But safety is the death of interest. A woman cannot be addicted to what she fully understands. And that's why the most powerful men are those who can hold tension without breaking it. Think of tension as a rubber band between two minds. Pull it too tight, she feels threatened and pulls back. Let it go completely and she loses interest. But keep it steady, calmly, consistently, and she vibrates in sync with your energy. This is controlled emotional tension. It's the invisible rhythm that pulls her attention back to you over and over, long after you've left the room. You don't need to speak much. In fact, words often weaken it. A single look, a pause before answering, a quiet smile instead of an explanation. Those tiny moments create a storm in her nervous system. She fills the silence with her own thoughts, her own fantasies, her own guess of who you might be. She becomes addicted not to you but to her own emotional guessing game. You become the mirror in which her imagination dances. This is where most men fail. They think tension means fighting or manipulation. It doesn't. It's not cruelty. It's holding steady. It's the art of staying still when her emotions rise, of being calm when she expects reaction. When she tests you, when she pulls away, when she provokes, she's unconsciously checking for your center. If you react, she knows she can move you. If you remain steady, she feels your gravity. That calm not caring doesn't push her away. It draws her in because her instincts recognize leadership not through force, but through self-control. The man who doesn't rush to close the loop becomes the loop. He becomes the unfinished story her mind can't stop writing. In dark psychology, the tension loop is the first mechanism of bonding. It doesn't rely on looks, money, or charm. It relies on uncertainty with importance. You create a small imbalance that her mind tries to balance. Each time she tries to solve you and fails, her emotional investment deepens. That's the heart of attachment, effort. People don't value what is given freely. They value what demands their mental energy. So when she says, "I don't know what it is about you," that's the tension loop speaking. She feels it as chemistry, but what she's actually experiencing is a brain trap. Self-made, invisible, addictive. Here's the discipline. When she leans in, don't reward too quickly. When she pulls away, don't chase. When she asks what you're thinking, smile and let the silence do the talking. Because every unanswered question keeps the loop alive. Every mystery keeps motion going. Remember this line. Don't close the loop. Let her curiosity burn. That burning is the electricity of attraction. It's not born from what you give. It's born from what you hold back. Not out of fear, but from mastery. Because the man who can create tension without chaos, who can hold uncertainty without needing control, becomes the emotional center around which her thoughts revolve. And the more she wonders, the more her mind begins to give you meaning. That's where the next law begins. The meaning imprint part 2, the meaning imprint. The mind worships what it can't decode. Every woman's attraction begins as curiosity, but it deepens through meaning. And meaning isn't discovered, it's projected. When something triggers her emotions, but refuses to explain itself, her brain begins to build stories to make sense of it. This is a survival mechanism. Humans are wired to create patterns from uncertainty. But in attraction, this mechanism becomes a mental trap. The less you reveal, the more her mind works. The more her mind works, the more it invests. And the more it invests, the deeper she falls. This is the meaning imprint, the invisible mark left when a woman meets a man she cannot fully decode. She may not understand you, but she feels something about you. That feeling, half confusion, half interest, becomes a seed her imagination starts to water. She begins to give meaning to your silences, your pauses, your unpredictability. She tells herself, he's not like other men. Why? Because she can't categorize you. The human mind worships mystery. It hates boredom. And boredom is born from being clear. When you behave exactly as expected, explaining yourself, apologizing, seeking approval, she knows your pattern. She sees through you. You become see-through. And being see-through erases attraction. But when you act opposite to her expectations, when you stay calm instead of angry, quiet instead of defensive, still instead of needy, you disrupt her mental model. That disruption doesn't confuse her mind. It wakes it up. Her curiosity transforms into emotional projection. She starts filling in the blanks with her ideal version of you. Your holding back becomes depth. Your silence becomes mystery. Your unpredictability becomes strength. You've said nothing. And yet, she's writing poetry about you in her head. This is the secret behind why women chase men they don't understand. It's not about logic. It's about symbolism. You've become a symbol of something her subconscious desires but can't control. You've triggered her archetypal imagination, the part of her mind Carl Jung called the projection. In simple terms, she doesn't see you. She sees the mirror of her own longing reflected through you. Every message you don't send, every explanation you hold back, every moment you remain centered while she spirals, those become data points her mind uses to build meaning. Meaning turns you from a man into an experience. And experiences are far harder to forget than people. Understand this. Women don't fall for words. They fall for what those words represent. They don't want understanding. They want emotional impact. They're not addicted to being clear. They're addicted to decoding the source of their own feelings. That's why confusion, when controlled, becomes chemistry. It's not chaos. It's excitement. It keeps the brain alive, pulsing with dopamine and curiosity. When you show holding back instead of explanation, you're not holding back love. You're giving her mind something to work on. And the more her mind works, the more she believes there must be something deep beneath the surface. That's how respect is born. Not from proving your value, but from making her search for it. But here's the danger. Meaning only imprints when you have emotional stillness. If you act distant out of fear, she senses emptiness. If you act calm as acting, she senses pretense. But if your stillness comes from inner order, from knowing you don't need to be understood to be powerful, then she feels something rare. You're no longer reacting to her world. You're making her interpret yours. And once she starts interpreting, she's no longer detached. She's tangled up. Her thoughts return to you in quiet moments. Her friends ask why she's distracted and she can't explain it. She calls it chemistry, but it's not chemistry. It's meaning. You've left a fingerprint on her subconscious, one that logic can't erase. That's why even after arguments, distance, or breakups, certain men remain unforgettable. They're not remembered because of what they gave, but because of what they held back. They didn't demand understanding. They commanded interpretation. So the next time she tests, questions, or pulls away, don't rush to fix her confusion. Let her wonder. Let her imagination work for you. Because every unanswered question she holds becomes emotional gravity pulling her closer. Confusion isn't chaos. It's chemistry. It's the bridge between her curiosity and her craving. And the man who can create meaning through mystery never has to compete for attention again. But remember, meaning alone is fragile. It fades unless anchored in something deeper. And that deeper force is emotional dominance. Because desire doesn't last without emotional dominance. Part 3, The Dominance Echo. Control is not in volume, it's in rhythm. Dominance isn't what you say, it's how slowly you say it. It's not the words, it's the weight that surrounds them. Women don't feel power through declarations or arguments. They feel it through rhythm, the tempo of your presence, the pacing of your reactions, the gravity in your stillness. When your rhythm is slower, steadier, quieter, her nervous system has to match it. And when she matches it, she follows it. Not by choice, but by biology. Every emotional interaction between a man and a woman is a hidden dance of nervous systems. Two bodies, two frequencies, two breathing patterns trying to find harmony. In this invisible dance, whoever holds steadier rhythm leads. If she raises her voice and you remain calm, her nervous system gradually tunes itself to yours. If she rushes and you move carefully, her speed starts to slow down without her realizing. If she storms and you remain still, her chaos loses direction. This is not dominance by fear. It's dominance by regulation. Psychologists call it mirror synchronization. When two people interact deeply, one nervous system becomes the anchor for the other. The body literally syncs, heart rate, breathing, tiny movements. And the one who remains calm becomes the main frequency. You don't dominate her through force. You dominate her through rhythm. Your calmness becomes the conductor of her storm. Your steadiness becomes the beat. Her emotions start to obey. That's why slowness is power. Because slowness means you're not chasing outcome. You're shaping experience. When you talk slower, she listens harder. When you move slower, she feels tension rise. When you respond slower, she doubts her control. And that uncertainty becomes attraction. Fast reactions belong to the emotionally weak. A man who reacts instantly shows that he's already lost rhythm. He's dancing to her beat. And once you dance to her beat, you've given up leadership. A woman cannot desire a man she leads emotionally. She might like him. She might pity him. She might even keep him, but she won't crave him. Craving happens only when she feels herself responding to your energy. When her heartbeat unconsciously echoes yours. Every text delay, every measured pause, every unhurried look creates tiny tension in her nervous system. She begins to wait for your rhythm. She begins to align herself to your timing. And in that waiting, attraction grows. Because what you control is not her body. It's her tempo. That's the core of the dominance echo. It's not about loudness or command. It's about influence so subtle it bypasses the thinking mind. You don't tell her to calm down. You make her calm down through energy match. You don't demand her attention. You absorb it through your pacing. In emotional dynamics, the slower system always governs the faster one because slowness signals certainty and certainty is the foundation of attraction. This is why great leaders, great lovers, and great seducers share the same presence. They move with careful rhythm. Napoleon on the battlefield, Machiavelli in persuasion, a panther in the jungle. They all operate from the same mental law. Control exists in pacing. When you speak, pause before finishing the sentence. When you look at her, let your eyes rest half a second longer than expected. When you answer a question, make silence your first language. Every delay multiplies emotional voltage because silence is not absence, it's pressure. It gives her space to feel the gap, to anticipate, to submit to your rhythm. Emotionally dominant men don't compete for control. They set the tempo. They don't overpower emotions. They regulate them. And through that regulation, they lead. This is the rhythm of masculine presence. Slow, grounded, unapologetic. It tells her subconscious, you can lose yourself. I won't. And once she feels that, her system relaxes into yours. That surrender is not weakness. It's biological alignment. Because deep inside, every woman is searching for a rhythm strong enough to hold her chaos. Not to silence it, but to contain it. So slow down. Let her feel your steadiness in every pause, every breath, every silence. Because when her heartbeat matches yours, her emotions no longer belong to her. They echo you. And that's the moment rhythm becomes control and emotion becomes addiction. Part 4, the emotional gravity. She doesn't fall for men. She falls into emotional gravity. Attraction isn't about looks, words, or wealth. It's about weight. Because emotions, like planets, don't orbit logic. They orbit gravity. A woman doesn't fall for what she understands. She falls into what she feels pulling her. And that pull isn't charm, it's center. Every man radiates energy. Most men, however, radiate scatter. They chase her mood, her approval, her reactions, bouncing emotionally between approval and fear. Their presence feels light, unstable, reactive. But a man with emotional gravity doesn't move from reaction. He moves from core. He doesn't try to manage her storm. He becomes the calm that defines its boundaries. When she's anxious, he doesn't soothe. When she's testing, he doesn't argue. When she's distant, he doesn't chase. He simply remains a fixed center around which her chaos must revolve. That stillness, that unshakable presence, is the very thing her biology recognizes as leadership. Because emotional gravity isn't domination, it's direction. It gives her nervous system a place to rest. Think of emotional gravity as the invisible field that forms around a man who's anchored in purpose. His tone is low, his body still, his breathing deep. He doesn't seek attention. He commands it by existing within his own frame. Women feel this before they notice it. They can sense when a man isn't moved by their emotional weather. They can sense when his energy doesn't change with approval or rejection. It's like standing near something immovable, a mountain, an ocean, a force that doesn't need approval to exist. In that presence, her nervous system starts to synchronize. The anxiety she used to project begins to dissolve. Not because he comforted her, but because his steadiness adjusted her. That's the secret. You don't lead emotions by fixing them. You lead emotions by absorbing them without distortion. When she cries, complains, provokes, she's subconsciously searching for containment. She wants to know if your energy can hold hers without collapsing. If you flinch, she feels unsafe. If you fight, she feels unseen. But if you stay present, she feels something rare. Peace under pressure. That peace isn't passivity. It's power. It's the mental signal of a complete man. Someone who no longer seeks to prove, defend, or chase emotional approval. He doesn't chase safety. He creates it. Because safety is not a place. It's a person. And when you become that person, she stops resisting you. Her guard drops. Her tone softens. She begins to breathe differently around you. Slower, deeper, mirroring your frequency. You've become her emotional gravity, the unseen field that pulls her without force. But this power has rules. Emotional gravity cannot be faked. If you pretend to be calm while your insides are chaos, she'll sense it instantly. A woman's intuition isn't mystical. It's neurobiological. Her brain evolved to detect mismatch for survival. Your tone, your tiny movements, your breathing, they all reveal your truth. So your calm must be real. It must come from alignment, not acting. You become grounded not by pretending not to care, but by mastering your own emotional voltage, learning to hold intensity without breaking. The man who does that stops needing control. He becomes control. He doesn't demand respect. He draws it. He doesn't ask to be trusted. He becomes trust embodied. That's why some men linger in a woman's mind long after they're gone. It's not nostalgia, it's resonance. She remembers the feeling of being near emotional weight. Her body misses the stability it once mirrored. And every man she meets afterward feels lighter, less certain, less grounded. That's the curse and the gift of emotional gravity. Once she's felt it, she can't forget it. You've set the standard her instincts will measure others against. So remember, don't chase emotional safety. Create it. Don't try to make her trust you. Become the kind of man who doesn't waver. Don't talk about peace. Radiate it. When your presence calms her chaos, when your silence gives her security, when your energy pulls her back even in distance, you've become more than attraction. You've become orientation. Because emotional gravity doesn't ask her to fall. It simply makes falling inevitable. But the story doesn't end here. Because the ultimate attraction isn't in presence, it's in absence. Part 5, The Absence Trigger. What disappears with weight never leaves the mind. The strongest presence a man can have is his absence. Not the desperate silence of punishment, but the calm withdrawal of completion. When you leave with emotional weight, without anger, without apology, you don't vanish, you echo. Because a woman's psychology doesn't react to words. It reacts to energy. When you remove that energy, the gravity she once revolved around, her nervous system collapses inward. Her brain begins to search, to replay, to ache. Not for the man, but for the state her body once felt in his field. This is the absence trigger, the final mechanism of dark psychology. It's what happens when your departure carries more substance than most men's presence. You see, attachment doesn't fade in your absence. It intensifies. Because our brain doesn't register absence as nothing. It registers it as loss. And loss creates withdrawal. In brain chemistry, this is called the dopamine gap. It's the same thing that keeps addicts craving what's gone. When she can't access the emotional rhythm you once provided, her brain releases both dopamine and cortisol, pleasure and stress chemicals. At the same time that chemical conflict becomes obsession. She starts remembering small things. The rhythm of your voice, the way you paused before speaking, the steadiness that once calmed her chaos. Each memory reactivates the seeking loop, the same loop you built at the beginning. She begins to chase balance, but she doesn't realize balance isn't something she lost. It's something you created. Understand this. She doesn't miss you. She misses the version of herself that only existed around you. The peace she felt in your gravity. The tension she felt in your silence. The excitement she felt in your mystery. That is what she's trying to recover when she texts you after days of silence. That's why she watches. Your absence, tests your patience, tries to provoke reaction. Her conscious mind says, I miss him. Her subconscious is screaming, I can't regulate without his energy. That's not romance. It's neurobiology. Most men destroy this power by leaving emotionally before they leave physically. They storm out in anger. They chase closure. They explain, justify, plead for understanding. And in doing so, they discharge all the voltage they built. Their absence becomes empty, not heavy. But when you exit with stillness, when you leave with no emotional leakage, you freeze her story mid-sentence. Her mind can't finish it. It keeps looping, trying to find meaning, trying to complete the rhythm that you ended on your terms. That's why true detachment is more powerful than confrontation. Because confrontation ends tension. Detachment preserves it. The silence of a man with weight is not absence. It's presence in another form. Your energy lingers in her nervous system like a resonance chamber. It's felt in her body before it's remembered in her mind. She feels it when she wakes in that half second before she checks her phone. She feels it when another man tries to copy your calm but collapses under her storm. She feels it in the emptiness where your gravity used to be. You've become a mental phantom, a reference point she compares every future connection against. This isn't cruelty. It's nature, because what carries weight doesn't disappear, it imprints. But understand the law behind it. You can't use absence to control her. You can only use it to reclaim yourself. When you pull away, it's not to punish. It's to purify. Distance isn't exile. It's restoration. It's the moment you stop being her supply and return to your own axis. Don't punish her with silence. Reward yourself with distance. Because real men don't withdraw to manipulate. They withdraw to return to gravity. They don't need to prove the loss. They become the loss. Absence, when it carries energy, becomes presence. It teaches her what your closeness couldn't. That peace isn't in her control. And chaos doesn't move you. And that realization plants the final seed, the one that makes her crave not your words, not your affection, but your essence. Because she now understands. Every man can be with her, but only one ever made her feel the silence of gravity. That's dark psychology, not manipulation, but mastery of emotional weight. You didn't take anything from her. You simply stopped giving what she mistook as ordinary. And now, in the echo of your absence, she finally understands what was never replaceable. When absence carries energy, it becomes presence. And when your silence becomes the loudest sound in her mind, that's not distance, that's dominance. She doesn't fall for kindness. She falls for emotional voltage. Kindness soothes her mind, but voltage rewires it, because attraction isn't about goodness. It's about charge. Every look, every pause, every withdrawal either builds or drains that charge. The difference between the man she forgets and the man she can't escape isn't appearance, wealth, or charm. It's how deeply he affects her nervous system. That's the real dark psychology. Not manipulation, not deceit, but mastery of energy exchange. The understanding that emotion isn't spoken, it's transmitted. Think back to the entire path you've taken. The tension loop taught you that uncertainty fuels obsession. The meaning imprint showed you how mystery becomes significance. The dominance echo revealed that rhythm leads emotion. The emotional gravity anchored your presence in weight. And the absence trigger proved that even silence can seduce when it carries energy. Now you see the entire structure of desire. The system hidden beneath words, rules, and logic. She doesn't love you because you're good for her. She loves you because she feels herself differently when she's around you. That's the addiction. That's the voltage. Emotional voltage is the electricity between two nervous systems, and the stronger system always leads. When your presence calms her chaos, you become her refuge. When your absence shakes her soul, you become her mirror. She starts living in the polarity you create. Safety in your steadiness, anxiety in your distance. That polarity is the heart of attraction. Not comfort, not agreement, but tension between surrender and uncertainty. She falls not because you gave her everything, but because you gave her a feeling no one else could. You didn't entertain her mind. You rearranged it. You didn't fill her heart. You distorted her balance. You made her feel herself in ways she didn't know she could. And that's why she can't let go. To the untrained, this looks like manipulation, but it's not. It's awareness, understanding that emotion is energy and energy obeys laws. You're not exploiting her feelings, you're managing them. You're not controlling her mind. You're mastering your own. You're not forcing attraction. You're embodying polarity. Because a man who cannot control his own nervous system will always be controlled by hers. And the man who can creates magnetic imbalance so strong that she reorganizes herself around his frequency. That's not cruelty. That's nature. She doesn't crave words. She craves sensation. The emotional voltage you create isn't about power over her. It's about presence within yourself. Every second of stillness, every moment of patience, every careful pause adds current to that voltage. You're no longer a man reacting to her world. You've become the environment her emotions respond to. That's the transformation from participant to axis, from chaser to center. When you reach this level, you no longer compete for women. You select because you understand that attraction isn't something to win. It's something to generate. She doesn't fall for kindness. She falls for voltage. Because voltage feels like life. It wakes her, stirs her, challenges her, unnerves her. And that's what she truly wants. Not safety, but sensation wrapped in certainty. So stop trying to please. Stop trying to prove. Your worth was never an effort. It was in presence. Every word you speak, every silence you hold, every step you take with control of timing and weight rewires how she experiences desire. That's the alchemy of attraction, to shift her from conscious reasoning to biological remembrance. When your presence calms her chaos and your absence shakes her soul, you've become the man her biology won't forget. Because at that point, it's not about love stories or promises. It's about imprints. You don't leave memories. You leave brain signatures. She won't remember every word you said, but she'll never forget how her body felt in your silence. She won't recall every touch, but she'll crave the weight of your energy when you were near. You've become the emotional baseline she unconsciously searches for in every man after you. That's the legacy of mastery. Not control of her, but command of self. So, as you walk away from this, remember, you don't need to chase approval or affection. You don't need to explain or convince. You don't need to play games. You only need to hold your voltage. Because when a man becomes voltage, he no longer pursues attraction. He creates addiction. Next, how to build emotional voltage. The psychology that makes women obsess over you. Stop giving attention. Start creating addiction.